Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at The Cougar, number 1 and number 2, a 1975 comic from Atlas Seaboard. This is one of the lesser titles in the Atlas stable. It's got an interesting story behind it. Like a handful of other Atlas Seaboard comics, when they initially planned the company, they were going to license all these properties. They were going to license the Omega Man. They were going to license a bunch of other movies and TV shows. If you've seen our video for Planet of the Vampires, you'll realize that's what happened to the Omega Man. Instead of paying for the rights, they just kind of ripped it off. And this is a total example of that, because there was a great TV show in the early 70s called The Night-Stalker. It was about a Chicago reporter, very like a down-to-earth show, except for the fact that every episode he ran into a different supernatural creature. One episode he'd fight a vampire, then he'd fight an Aztec mummy in the next one. And so they wanted the rights to that. I guess it fell through. So they just tweaked the concept and made the Cougar. In this instance, the Cougar is a Hollywood stuntman, but every issue he fights a different monster. Let's check out number 1 here. So as we see in this Frank Thorne cover, pretty okay Frank Thorne cover. I've seen better, but I've seen a lot worse. I like Frank Thorne's designs, when the way he composes covers. They're always kind of interesting. So it says right here, The Cougar, a Hollywood stuntman turned night stalker. It's like right off the bat, it's like, guys, you're not even trying to hide it. So let's check this out. So the story starts off. We see a vampire and a human and a man fighting on top of a runaway stagecoach. And it's a struggle to the death. But before I continue with the plot, I just want to say, this is some really nice penciling. This is Dan Atkins. He pencils the first 9 pages of this comic with Frank Springer inks. I guess he had to drop out because after page 9, Frank Springer took over the pencils as well. But I'm not a big fan of Frank Springer as a penciler or inker. But I think Dan Atkins' pencils are so sharp and tight that even Frank Springer couldn't fuck him up. This looks really good to me. Just that panel right there, that's amazing. That's like Russ Heathworthy, you know? It's good stuff. So the stagecoach hits a rock, and it goes tumbling off the road and crashes. And when that happens, we realize we're on a movie set. We see all the crew. This is all just a scene in a movie. Once again, look at this great illustration. It's just good stuff. So this is written by Steve Mitchell. Steve Mitchell, he was on staff at Atlas. He also inked for many years. He inked at Marvel and DC. But I think I've never seen him write before. And I hate to say, you can kind of tell. It's not a very well-written comic. It's not that great. But this is it's nice seeing Dan Atkins pencil. It's a rare treat. He was always inking people. Especially by the mid-70s. I think he wasn't penciling much. He was mostly just inking. And he was one of the best inkers in the business. So now the director yells, cut. We realize that the 2 stuntmen, the one playing the vampire and the one playing the man, they're pals. And the one playing the human, so I don't know, it sounds weird to say the human, the man, this is Jeff Rand. He is the hero. He is the Cougar. And the vampire's name is Harv. They're buddies. The director's kind of being a dick to him. So they're like, let's go get a beer. They call over to this, their friends, this couple, Roger and Kathy. And they say, hey, you want to go to the tavern with us? And I should mention that It doesn't even say, but we realize this takes place in Europe somewhere. Let me see real quick. I think I might have missed something. Nope. Okay. So Roger can't go. He's the scout location guy. And he has to check out a castle in the area for tomorrow's shoot. So Kathy goes off with the guys and Roger goes to the castle. Look at this great inking here. You know, I was just poo-pooing on Frank Springer, but this is a beautiful panel. The illustration on these bricks in this castle, it's like way better than anything else in the comic. It's really nice. So Roger goes inside the castle. This is a weird panel. Like all this negative space, but not really for dramatic effect. It's just like, I think he didn't compose this panel while he wasn't thinking. And he said, oh, this is kind of weird. He finds a coffin in the castle. There's a cloak inside and a wooden stake. He pulls the stake out. And unfortunately, that was the stake that killed the vampire. So the vampire rematerializes and attacks Roger. And Roger says, "Arg." And now at the village tavern, we see our three chums and that vampire is now walking through the streets towards the tavern, attracted by the laughter within. And when he walks in the door, I like this vampire face there. That's a good panel. When he walks in the door, he sees Kathy and he says, "Katya, my love." And he grabs her. So, of course, Harv and Jeff, attack the vampire. They quickly realize that he is super strong. In fact, he picks up Harv like a rag doll and throws him across the room, breaking his ribs. Now, this I thought was very interesting. So, guys, see here on the movie set, he's wearing not just a suit. This is Jeff. I didn't even point that out. That face is like very Kubert, very rugged. And so he's wearing a suit. And then I guess just to go out casually to get a drink, he puts on this ridiculous outfit. So I guess this is Jeff's street clothes. This kind of fruity, I don't know what you call it, leotard. I just thought that was weird. Like, wait, he really just walks around like that to the grocery store and shit? So Jeff attacks the vampire. And it's a big fight scene. Jeff is pretty outclassed here. I mean, he's a super strong vampire, but Jeff is very agile. So he's able to land when he throws him, not hurt himself. He's a really good stuntman. And then a police officer comes in. The constable shoots the vampire a bunch of times. Doesn't even faze him. And the vampire escapes into the night. And, of course, they're all kind of freaked out. And Harv is not doing too good. See, I blame this on Frank Springer inking right here. So this is the last page of Dan Atkins' pencils. And the art's going to take a nosedive. So this is so weird, guys. Here's another reference to the Night Stalker. Harv says, this is like almost this metafictional thing. Harv says, "Hey, you know what this reminds me of? Remember that TV movie we worked on about the vampire in Las Vegas? The vampire tossed around the characters just like he did to me." Now, the very first TV pilot episode of the Night Stalker, Kolchak the Night Stalker, he fought a vampire in Las Vegas. So they're referencing the TV show that they're ripping off. And guys, I totally forgot this too, to point this out. Look what it says on the credit page. This issue is dedicated to Dan Curtis. Dan Curtis is the creator and producer of the Night Stalker. So at least, I guess that's some kind of acknowledgement, a little, tip of the hat. So who knows how it all shook down. But whatever, they still didn't pay for the rights of the Night Stalker and kind of ripped it off. Though I guess, I mean, you can't really copyright the idea of a guy fighting monsters. See, I gotta say, this is a pretty good panel. That looks like some classic comic strip illustration. I think that could be Alex Raymond or something. So the next day on the movie set, Roger, of course, has not returned because that vampire got him in the castle. The director's all mad, and Jeff Cougar comes up and says, well, let's go to the castle. That's where he was last. Maybe something happened. This is a very weird face to me. Almost looks really good, but there's something a little off about it. Like her eyes a little too big. I don't know. It's it stood out for me. So when they get to the castle, they find they find Roger there, dead, desanguinated, and Jeff realizes something's going on. He goes to a local bookstore, and he says, could you direct me to your vampire section? Well, he just says, do you have any book on vampires? And this guy seems to know all the local lore, and he tells him about that castle. The castle was owned by Baron Corlock. And I guess, centuries ago, he became a vampire. But the townspeople, banded together, trapped him, and destroyed him. He also mentions, of course, that he had a lover named Katya. That's, the Corlock thinks that Kathy is Katya. And then he goes to visit the constable. The constable seems pretty unfazed by, that he just, the night before he shot a guy 5 times and he just ran away. It's like in all these movies and comic books, people are just like, oh, I mean, this would be front page news in every newspaper. So he does convince the constable, at the very least, to put 2 guards on Kathy's door at the hotel because she's been attacked. So he agrees. Jeff is at her hotel. Here's some of that weird Frank Springer bad penciling going on here. And, of course, Count Corlock shows up. He tears through the 2 guards, the 2 cops, like they're tissue paper. Knocks down the door. Something interesting about this panel. I think I like it, but I'm not sure. It's very interesting. And he knocks out Jeff with 1 punch with his super vampire strength. And he abducts Kathy. Jeff wakes up and actually steals this couple's car. And he drives up to the castle. He figures that's where they are. He gets there just in time. Count Corlock is about to kill her. And once again, he starts beating the shit out of Cougar. Cougar is definitely outclassed here. So this fight choreography is kind of bland. It's not very thrilling. I do always like kind of stuff like this. So finally he realizes, he says, wait, I'll break that table and use one of the pieces as a wooden stake, and that's how I'll get him. Now this is just another big, pretty stupid hole. He went to the bookstore, learned about vampires. Even if he didn't go, everyone knows since they're 5 years old that you kill a vampire with a wooden stake. You'd think he would have showed up with some wooden stakes ready, had at least some garlic, salt, or whatever, holy water. But he just runs in there and thinks he's gonna, punch out Corlock. Finally, he says, oh, wait, if I have a wooden stake, I can even up the odds. Then he does, and he kills Corlock, who dissolves into nothing. And so he saves the day, happy ending, and he grabs Kathy and says, come on, babe, let's go home. He's a pretty cool guy, this Jeff Rand. So number 2, we got a pretty crappy cover from Rich Buckler pencils, Al Milgrom inks. And you can tell almost all Atlas Comics, here's a little tip, guys. When Atlas Comics stopped, when the banner, this was a little design change they did, when it doesn't go all the way through like this is the last month or two of Atlas Comics, and all their comics really got worse. Larry Lieber kind of asserted his control from Jeff Rovin. And another one of the things all these covers have, even the early ones did have this, but the later ones more so, they thought that it was more sellable, that kids wanted to see a word balloon on every cover, like someone exclaiming something. So this guy is saying, the Cougar and the Wolfman, they're falling. They'll both be killed. And I just thought it was interesting. He has such worry in his voice about a Wolfman being killed. I mean, this Wolfman is going to kill everyone. He's a monster. But just a little thing. Sometimes I notice stupid things. I think are funny. Look at that face. Some savage looking shit. So now Gary Friedrich has taken over as writer, and Frank Springer is penciling and inking the whole issue. This is some slipshot art. This is the Frank Springer that I remember from childhood. Whenever, every now and then I'd buy a Marvel comic and it'd be his art, I'd be like, shit, no, yeah. So we start off, it's Hollywood, we're on a movie set, some kind of medieval movies being filmed, and Jeff Rand is the chief stuntman getting ready to do a really dangerous stunt, a major stunt. The producer of the film shows up with his girlfriend, Lisa, and his name's George. So they're watching the scene being filmed. Jeff, on fire, jumps into the moat, and all of a sudden they have to cut. They're like, the scene's ruined. There's a dead body in the moat. This guy, all he cares about is that the scene is ruined. There's a poor guy's dead. So, and it just happens that a detective happens to be on set today. And, of course, he questions everyone, tries to figure out what's going on. And he says they got to shut down production. The producer's not happy, but whatever. And I didn't mention this, guys, the corpse in the river, his throat's been ripped out, as if he was savaged by an animal. I bet you know where this is heading. And he's thinking, we see Jeff's thoughts, and he's like, I think I know what's going on here. And this is the segue into a flashback where we get the Cougar's origin story. And I guess Jeff grew up in the bayou swamps of Louisiana. He loved growing up there in the bayou. Here's his family. He had an older brother named Rick. His parents, man, they look like a bunch of bumpkins. So Jeff grew up swinging around, I guess, on kudzu vines. I don't even know if that's a thing, kudzu vines. But swinging around playing Tarzan all the time. So I guess that's how he got agile and was kind of good at being a stuntman later on. He also, there was a resident witch named Black Hattie. And Jeff would spend time with her, listening to her lore, her magic lore. Now, for some reason, the older brother, Rick, seems really irrationally full of hatred for Black Hattie. He's always just like, we should run her out of town. I think it's mainly because he doesn't like the fact that Black Hattie's filling his younger brother's head with whatever, this gobbledygook. But still, he seems really just like he hates her guts. It doesn't really make sense. She comes to visit one day, Black Hattie, and Rick gives her the business. He starts tearing into her, insulting her. And so Black Hattie puts a curse on him. So 2 years later, Jeff is still playing Tarzan. One day he comes home, and there's a half-man, half-wolf creature in his house. He struggles. He tries to fight it, struggles with it, loses because it's a werewolf, and he's knocked out. When he wakes up, his parents are dead, savaged by this creature. Now he comes back to the present, and he plays dumb. he doesn't tell anyone about this. So the detective's kind of like, no, what were you just mumbling about? Do you know something about this? He's like, oh, no, I don't. But in his thoughts, we realize he's pretty sure it's Rick. I guess there could be other werewolves, but his art is just so icky. So I guess Jeff decides to call up his cousin Roger to see if he knows anything about the family. Like maybe he's seen Rick or knows what happened to him, because Jeff has never seen Rick again after that. And right when he hangs up the phone, Roger is visited by a badly drawn werewolf. The worst kind. And he attacks him and kills him. Some pretty savage stuff. And then the werewolf goes, "Ow!" Right then Jeff shows up. He's coming to talk to Roger. Finds the dead body. The detective shows up. And I guess the werewolf pays a visit, looks in the window, but then runs away. And Jeff kind of blurts out something about silver bullets. So the detective's like, I think you know something about this case you're not letting on about. But he still mums the word here. And now we see Rick. We never get to see his face. He's in this crappy room. And we realize that, Rick isn't happy being a werewolf. He's tried to kill himself many times. He can't. I think that's a thing with werewolves. They just can't kill themselves, even if they're racked with guilt about what they do when they're lycanthropes. And now we cut back to Jeff, and kind of a weird storytelling thing. So he's lying in bed, and now we cut back to the end of his origin, and basically just talking about how he became a stuntman. But so he's so worried about all this crap, of course, he forgets that he's supposed to meet his girlfriend, Janie. So he runs down to this theater, the LA Forum, and Janie's there backstage because she's a big rock star. So he's dating this rock star chick, kind of hot, and she blows him a kiss as she goes up on stage. Meanwhile, we see his brother he tied himself up to try to stop himself from hurting anyone as a werewolf, to no avail. He's too strong for that. And then he shows up at the LA Forum, the werewolf brother. He storms in, doesn't even pay for his ticket, so he's a scofflaw werewolf as well. That would be the worst name for a band ever. Scofflaw werewolf. This is a weird little scene. We see Jamie singing a song. We have the lyrics here. They're very generic, crappy lyrics, like the kind that AI would write. I wonder if he'll be the man I hoped he'd be. Climb the highest mountain and swim the deepest sea. And then it says, copyright 1975 by Gabra Lunzi Productions. Reprinted by permission. So that was so weird. I'm almost positive like that could have been Gabriel Levy, one of the guys who wrote and worked at Atlas. Maybe he had a band and this was a little sneak in of one of their songs, because there's no reason why they'd have to get permission, why this was necessary. I just thought it was weird. So the werewolf is running through the forum, heading towards the stage, and he ascends to the stage, grabs Janie, and holds her. So the Cougar leaps up into the rafters, and he basically says, I know it's me you're really after. So basically he knows that, like, his brother, his brain is still somewhere in his lycanthrope form, but he basically hates his brother and wants to hurt him. So even though he's a werewolf and you'd think he'd be happy just going around eating people, random people, but no, he's got some sentience. He wants to fuck with Jeff. So the detective, he's there, shoots the werewolf a few times. No effect because he has no silver bullets. And then from this vantage point, Jeff makes his attack. The cougar makes his attack. He grabs this rope, and just like he did when he was a little kid, he makes like Tarzan. Just every panel in here is just, it's just kind of gruesome. So he makes a pass, misses, and then he does it again, swings down right into Rick's direction, the werewolf's direction, and he's got a silver dagger and he plunges it into his heart. But he crashes himself and is injured. The detective runs up just in time to see Rick turn from a werewolf form back to a dead human. Janie says, "Oh my God, that's Jeff's brother, Rick." Which, I don't know how she would know what he looks like, because, you know, Jeff hasn't seen him since he was a teenager. He didn't know Janie then. Sorry to be a nitpicker. They rush Jeff to the hospital, and while Janie waits in the waiting room, finally a doctor comes out, and he says, well, he'll pull through, but there's a price to pay. His spinal cord was shattered. He'll be paralyzed permanently. And Janie goes, no. And then we're informed that next issue, a crippled cougar, helpless in a jungle of evil. But that will never happen. I do like the idea, though. That could have been a cool little take on an adventure hero if he had this wicked bitchin' wheelchair that would shoot wooden stakes out at vampires. Maybe he could emit garlic powder dust or something, or shoot holy water, like a little water cannon. That could have been a pretty cool concept, the paraplegic monster hunter. But alas, that would never happen. I am curious, though, how they would have dealt with this if they were going to actually deal with him being a paraplegic. You never know with Atlas. They had some weird stuff going on. So that's it, guys, for the Cougar #1 and #2. You might be wondering, like, why did you show us these kind of crappy comics? And I've said this before, guys, I have a soft spot for Atlas Seaboard Comics. I'm still fascinated by that company. It lasted less than a year. And so I do hold on to, I want all the Atlas comics. I have almost all of them. And I just need like 2 or 3. And I want to have them all, even no matter how shitty they are. If you guys saw our Hands of the Dragon video, that was about a few months ago. It's even worse than this, but I don't want to get rid of it. So that's why. Thanks for indulging me. But I'm going to keep showing these Atlas Seaboards off. Mind you, many of them are excellent, but there's some real turds in here that I normally wouldn't keep in my collection. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.